I will pause to remind you that Whitman and many others confirmed that Lincoln looked badly. In the above lectures, he said, "I saw Abraham Lincoln often the 4 years following that date. He changed rapidly and much during his presidency. Since Lincoln was only in his mid-50s, this should be very surprising. Remember, Lincoln was basically a one-term president. He served only 1 month of his second term, so this change all occurred over the span of just 4 years. Except perhaps for some graying and possible weight gain, most healthy people don't change rapidly and much in their mid-50s. And yet anyone can see by studying the photo above and comparing it to photos from just 2 years earlier that Lincoln had aged dramatically between ages 54 and 56. Regarding the diagnosis of cancer, Dr. John Sotos of the University of North Carolina School of Medicine did not come to this conclusion idly. He drew his conclusion of men to be from more than 300 sources, 5,900 physical and mental observations about Lincoln and his family members. Each observation is fully referenced and organized a modern medical record. A reader who has followed me up to this point will naturally ask, why would they wish to fake Lincoln's death? If they didn't want him as president, why not just convince him not to run? If they wanted Andrew Johnson to be president, why not just run Johnson instead of Lincoln? Because they knew Lincoln could win and Johnson couldn't. They wanted Johnson as president, but knew he couldn't win on his own. Johnson was a terrible speaker and wasn't much known outside of Tennessee. The only way to get Johnson into the White House was via Lincoln, and they knew that. So they had to run Lincoln in 1864, despite the fact that everyone inside knew he was dying. We actually have confirmation of that straight from mainstream sources. When Grant's 1864 spring campaigns turned into bloody stalemates and Union casualties mounted, the lack of military success wore heavily on the president's re-election prospects, and many Republicans across the country feared that Lincoln would be defeated. Sharing this fear, Lincoln wrote and signed a pledge that if he should lose the election, he would still defeat the Confederacy before turning over the White House. This morning, as for some days past, it seems exceedingly probable that this administration will not be re-elected. Then it will be my duty to so cooperate with the president-elect as to save the Union between the election and the inauguration, as he will have secured his election on such ground that he cannot possibly save it afterward. Lincoln did not show the pledge to his cabinet, but asked them to sign the sealed envelope. Historians have always found that to be very curious, even beyond the signing of a sealed envelope. It looks very much like an early continuance of government plan, like they have now for emergencies. It is basically a pledge to ignore the Constitution and all laws. And who is Lincoln supposed to be making this pledge to? Himself?